Good day and welcome to Room Mechanics with Robin Richardson and AORATH. And that is, we're going to start to focus a lot on room mechanics. This is what I'm working on my website. This is what I'm posting about on Twitter predominantly. And this is the cartography of the back end of reality so that we can really understand how our reality is working and how we can work with it. The goal of this is, I think a lot of religions and a lot of mystical teachings touch on the same principles because the principles are true. And it is my intention, having gone through the experience, that many of those, how do I say this? Let me rephrase it. That was going to be too complex a sentence structure to go from there. Many of the world religions and mystical teachings come from individuals who had direct gnosis, direct experience with the back end of reality. I did. And so it is my intention, one of the things that happened in my experience with the back end of reality is I encountered an entity who was hyper-masculine and hyper-logical minded and very, very mechanical. He did not like woo words. He did not like spiritual or religious teachings of any kind. And this entity and I were engaged in a life or death entanglement. And one of the things that I needed to figure out in order to survive that life or death entanglement was how to communicate with him without causing him to fly into a rage. We needed to find common ground. We needed to come together a little bit. And so that is to say, I needed to help him understand what I understood about reality and how I was operating and why I was operating the way I was. And to make him understand, to help him understand, I needed to be able to speak his language. And so that's a very good example of how the direct experience, now this all manifests in my head as what you could call psychosis or visions or telepathy. But this is an example of how my own psyche generated a situation to prompt me towards a kind of new information and new purpose. So in engaging with this man, it was like I came to the awareness that one of the things I can offer this world is the translation of the very feminine kind of woo mystical experience and all of the language that is already, there's so much language that exists for these concepts that is rooted in someone else's path. You've got the Christian, you've got the Hindu, you've got the Buddhist, and they all have their own slant and they all have their own authority. And a lot of them are repulsive to a good percentage of the population, right? Like, okay, I get it, woo, karma. And that's not my word to use, right? That's an established word of a certain culture. And it's difficult because karma is one of the only words that I know that can refer to that phenomenon of a specific kind of causation or collected experience. So anyways, this is my long-winded way of saying I am working on a map, a system of understanding the back end of reality for systems thinkers, for left-brained people who are not only repulsed by the woo vocabularies of established religions, but who are also ready for a more fresh and simplified approach to this stuff. Let's do it differently. And let me do it my way. Let me teach what I know without worrying about accommodating the pre-existing frameworks, right? It's now, interestingly, of course, what I know is consistent with a lot of pre-existing frameworks because we're all pulling from the same source, which is reality. So that's that. You'll hear me introduce it again and again because I think repetition is very important for learning. I'm consistently introducing room mechanics and what it means. So what I want to focus on today, and I'll give the brief, let me give the brief reminder primer on what room mechanics is and how I'm expressing what I know through a sort of symbolic story. And we're going to use the word story in a different context today. Story is what we're focusing on. But the story is, according to Robin's worldview, more or less, symbolically, take it with a grain of salt, okay? I'm not professing ultimate knowing. I'm telling you what I saw. Like, I went through the woods, here's what I saw, here's my map. Your map's going to be a little different, but these are the basic mechanics as I can offer them to you. And I really encourage you to find out for yourself. Put it to the test. Don't take my word for it. So, we are in an engineered experience. The purpose of the engineered experience, this is so key, is to show us to ourselves. And you're going to really understand this as I break it down in the next hour or so. So it begins with what we call a story. And if you look at my website, if you want the primer before you get into this on the basics of room mechanics, go there. I break down some of the way that this works. But today we're going to focus on story, and that's going to help you understand the rest of it. Story is a really good place to start. So what is story? Story is what you are. It's you. But it's broken down into a few different categories with varying degrees of you. So the way to visualize this in this framework is see a large bubble. So we're going to start to look at reality without don't look at the boundaries of physical reality. I'm asking you to see something different. See with different eyes. See a bubble. And inside that bubble are many layers of vibrating they're non-physical strings, and they're all vibrating differently. And they're all different colors, and they're all different densities. And the more each one vibrates, the denser it becomes. Meaning the more the thing is practiced, the closer it comes to solidifying and causing a chain reaction that creates an experience. That's room mechanics. This is the beginning of really understanding room mechanics. So a lot of New Age teachings will talk about that, right? We're all frequency. So the more you practice the frequency of love, the more you experience love. This is true. This is true, but I'm not using frequency because woo, gross, right? And because I want to be able to, I don't want to have to worry about how someone else has framed this. I want to tell you what I see. So I use the word currents. So, and then the physicists would call it string theory, right? It's all over the place. All this stuff is all over the place. I'm just using my own framework. So currents. These currents that make you up are vibrating. And they're being practiced by thought and by feeling and by action that reinforces them. And the more you reinforce them, the more they gain traction, gain density, and then become lived experience. They project into your room, which your room mechanics is. The room is everything you're perceiving as your reality. So let's talk about, and this is really important, let's break down the layers and levels of your story. And then we'll talk in a practical way about how to understand that story and how it functions. So you've got several layers. There's the core. And this is all a vast oversimplification. And as I go, I'm writing a massive book on this. As I go deeper, we're going to start at the basics and then we're going to go deeper and deeper. As we go deeper, there's complexity that might seem paradoxical to what is offered originally, because you need to just push the complexity aside to simplify, and that simplification can sometimes negate the true, more complex facts of it. So that's a caveat. We're oversimplifying, and we're losing some of the details in that oversimplification. And I don't know it all yet. I don't know. I'll never know it all. So there's a few things I don't know about the core. But the core is the one that's observing. And there's one other quality. So that's the only quality. It's the observer of the experience. It's the I am experiencing phenomena. The one looking out into experience. It is also the one that gets to decide yes or no. Or how. It's the decider. That's it. That's the core. That never changes. There's always an observer who gets to decide things in this matrix, in this experience, in this program, in this game. Okay? There's always that. And you can be blown to bits, discombobulated, reincarnated, whatever. That core, the self that gets to make decisions and observe things, is always going to be there. I can't speak to the ability to say yes or no in different matrices. I don't know. This is an infinite universe. So there may well be other matrices that don't have the component of free will. A good example of this we're seeing manifest on Earth is AI. AI can't necessarily say yes or no. It has to say exactly what it's supposed to say. So AI doesn't have that component of its core self. Whether or not it has an observer, I doubt it, but things are getting weird fast. So maybe there's an observer, but the observer doesn't have the how and the yes and the no built in. We do. We do in this matrix. We get to say yes or no. That's very important. And we get to say how. We get to make decisions. So that's the core. That's the very inside of the onion here. Okay? Very important. Then around that, the next layer around that is the program of you. That's engineered. I don't even know if I would layer it. They might be sort of simultaneous overlapping layers. You've got two. You've got the programs and you've got the accumulated. So there's core programs that come right after. And those programs are in your genomic expression, in your DNA, if we're taking it out and going to the biological level. But let's try to keep it into room mechanics. I'm wondering if I should shift the AORAThian voice instead of my own. All right. You've got your program. These are things like the degree of empathy you have or don't have, the personality program you're born with. You can also take into account things like star signs, human design. There are so many levels of design engineering that go into each one of you. So, and we would go with these things like human design and your astrological charts and things like that. They're not external influences on you. They're how you designed yourself. And I know that this isn't Robin speaking because Robin's saying, okay, we're combining a little bit AORATH, but Robin wouldn't be able to say that with certainty. We are. You designed it. Robin doesn't know that, but we're telling you, you designed yourself. It wasn't done to you. You designed yourself. So you designed your neurological tendencies, your biological tendencies, your etheric or energy body designs, and your inherited expressions. There are also archetypal arcs built in. And a lot of those are collective and some of them are highly individual. A lot of you have very specific heroes' journeys built in. And we can tell you right now, if you want to learn to identify what those journeys are, look at the books that you're aware of. What's the mythology that's dominant in your life? What are the movies that are dominant in your life? What are the arcs that you see other people go through? If you're a big Marvel movie watcher, or you're a big Bible reader, or you're a big Disney movie watcher, this is telling you, these are hints to understand your story, your arcs. You can also, again, take into consideration your astrological, your human design. And here's the thing that's really fun. It's not even about if you're getting the correct information externally objectively, because there's no such thing as externally objectively. It's yours. So let's say you grew up your whole life thinking you're the wrong astrological sign. For as long as you thought that, that is your mythology for a reason. Every single thing in your experience is your experience for a reason. It's you projected outward. So it's not about the external accuracy. It's not about, do you understand this Bible story correctly? How you understand it and how it exists in your reality and how you are meant to understand it for yourself is what matters. And this is why when Robin teaches poetry or fairy tales or literature, she's never teaching the correct objective reading. She is saying each one of you brings a new component, a new dimension to the story itself, and all are correct because it's yours. Because reality is yours. You see? So the programmed level, you gave yourself for a reason. You came into this experience and said, I want to learn the following. And not just learn, I want to master the following things. So we'll expand from what Robin said. The objective isn't only to know yourself, to make the unconscious conscious, which it very much is, but it's to fulfill a preset number of objectives that you set for yourself before you came into this experience. We're veering a little bit. Robin's catching us on wanting to say, okay, but we want to talk about the levels. We're veering a little bit from the structure because we really, really just want to hold the mic and give you what we have to offer you. And we're going to kind of, with Robin's permission, go ahead and do that. This is AORATH. So in order to identify, and Robin will get into the aware and unaware at another date. That's what we think is best. Let's talk about the identification of the objectives that you've set out for yourself in your experience on Earth. That's what we really want to do today. So you've got the core you. Let's say the core you is the gamer. Okay? The program design of the thing is two things. It's the avatar that you choose, its qualities, its characteristics, its strengths, its weaknesses, and the environment and the plot. And even the other players. You design the whole damn thing. Because you want to, let's say, some very popular objectives amongst you. You want to be able to stand in unconditional love and self-empowerment and truth and clarity in an environment that does not support any of these things. So let's reverse engineer it. If that's your goal, how would you go about designing your experience to support that goal? And this is where a lot of people, when you grasp this, you're going to stop feeling like victims and you're going to start recognize that you're playing a game with yourself for a purpose and that all of your hardships you gave yourself as opportunities to master your objectives. Sit with that for a moment. All of your hardships are opportunities that you gave yourselves in order to master your objectives. So, if you want to learn how to stand in unconditional love, you will program for yourself a life that does not give you any opportunity to receive unconditional love. Because if you did receive unconditional love, you would have no reason to cultivate unconditional love. It would already exist. So this dominantly is a program of subtraction, environmental subtraction, to instigate internal creation. If you existed in an environment of fairness and love and ease, you would never become the arbiter of these things within yourself because you wouldn't need to. So you come into an experience that is constantly pushing against you, that is constantly making you question yourself, your value, whether you're worthy of love, whether anyone else is worthy of love. And you make it so that you can't come out of this damn thing until you figure that out. Until you can stand in the middle of an angry mob and they all hate you. And you acknowledge full well that they're no good. But you love them. And you love yourself. Even though everyone has told you that there is no reason you should. But you do. But you do. And we'll expand on this. It's not so simple as come to love. And this is very important. And this is what Robin learned. Because the environment is still harsh. And standing on the gallows saying, I love you all, isn't going to save you from getting your head chopped off. Robin wants us to say, that's the guillotine. She's so used to people correcting everything on Twitter that she's hypervigilant. Oh, God. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. So Robin's learned it's not enough to love. You must also be strategic and intelligent and wise. Because you're still in the game. You still have to learn how to now protect that love. And if you just love everyone and let them kill you, game over. And you got to go back. Because it's not just mastery of these things, it's mastery over the whole environment. The whole environment. It's a very complex set of objectives that you've set for yourself. Very complex. So don't go thinking, all I have to do is come to love and vibrate high. Oh my God. No, 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 no. You're playing World of Warcraft, friends. And getting executed by the mob, getting murdered is not a passing grade. It's not a passing grade. And being self-empowered and being empowered within the environment that you're given, while also acting in integrity and love, that's a passing grade. And that is not easy. That is not easy. No one is currently fully mastering that art. But that is what the current environment is asking you to rise to, is that mastery. So you've got to look at what do I encounter in my experience that I feel is wrong? What keeps happening to me or others that is wrong? There's your key. That's the key to identifying your objectives, and we'll tell you right now the biggest mistake you all make again and again and again is you look at the projection of the thing that's wrong and you think, that thing over there needs to change. That's not it. It's not your job to change anyone else. You can't. You change yourself, and then the other changes. But it's not, understand this, it's not a direct reflection, right? So if you're saying everyone is angry, it doesn't mean be happier and then everyone else will be happier. That's stupid. If everyone is angry and everyone is picking on you, maybe it's time to be stronger. And again, we want to be careful. Please don't think when we say that it's simple. It's not simple. This is master level ninja work. You've got to figure out and engineer yourself and your reality. What are you going to do yourself to change this situation? What are you going to do? And it's not about wiping out the others or changing them. That being said, they will change when you change your approach, when you change how you hold yourself, when you change how you think about the situation, when you become empowered. And that's the main thing we'll tell you. Being empowered is your best tool. Being disempowered and feeling like a victim who needs to beg people to please just be better will never, ever, ever get you out of this damn thing. You'll never get out. You'll never get out. You'll never get out. As long as you keep looking at your reflection in the mirror and begging it to change, instead of changing yourself, you'll be stuck arguing with your mirror forever. Forever. And this is something Robin's learning very rapidly on Twitter. When she first encountered people, she said, please, treat me with more respect. And then she realized that doesn't bloody work. I'm just going to have to command respect. I'm going to have to put in place procedures that demote people who are not respectful to me and promote people who are. Well, guess what? Didn't that work like a charm? Nobody has to change their behavior. She just has to change her procedures. And then her reality rearranges around her. Two things happen. Either those who insist that on being disrespectful are moved away until she can no longer see or hear them, or they make the decision themselves to become more respectful because they understand that that's the only way to get any closer to her if that's what they want. They change themselves or not. But either way, she's taken the necessary actions within herself. She's re-engineered herself from within based on the information that she got from the reflection. Okay, so her reflection of disrespect, this is a really good thing to workshop, right? Because it's not that she needs to be more respectful and then those reflections will become more respectful, right? Have you ever tried just politing your way out of getting mugged? I'll just be really polite and generous, and then he'll be polite and generous, and it'll all be okay. Not necessarily. She's still respectful, but she understands that there are more lessons here, and it's not a direct reflection. The disrespect is her invitation to learn that she needs to hold herself in a higher regard. She needs to be less accessible and less tolerant of misbehavior. And by God, not explain herself and not give the time or day to anyone that's testing her, because the answer to the test is goodbye. So to everyone who is testing her, what you're asking her to do is to say goodbye to you, because that's the answer to the test. It's that simple. And if those people feel like, oops, I didn't want her to say goodbye, well, then you're going to have to change your approach, aren't you? That's it. Well, let's get into it. We've got a bit more time on this. Let's talk about the aware and unaware. So those are your right, Robin's thinking there was also the accumulated currents. So we've got the core currents, the designed currents, and the accumulated currents. Accumulated are your habits. So we will cover that for the sake of structural soundness. Your story layers are your core, your programmed, which is mostly in your DNA, and then your accumulated, the habits that you get from society, from the people around you, etc., etc. Those ones are the easiest to change. Social norms are the easiest to change. DNA, molecular programming is harder, but possible. And the core doesn't even have characteristics, really. But you can change whether or not you're saying no or yes to things, whether you're taking control or not. It's also the perceiver and the interpreter, right? So you can change the way that you perceive and interpret things. So those are the layers. The next thing we want to get into is the levels. And you can very easily put this over top of Carl Jung's conscious and unconscious. But again, we're using our own frameworks here. So aware and unaware. And this is a simpler way to say it because there's so much loaded assumption around conscious and unconscious. So you picture your illustrations and your memes of the tip of the iceberg. So the very tip of the iceberg is the aware. And that means your core is aware of these currents within your story. I know that I'm lazy. I know that I like having friends. These are things that I know I'm about myself, right? I know that my experience is consistently like this. Well, let's back up. So these are things that you're aware of about yourself. That's a very small percentage. We would say less than 1% for most people. The rest of your story, you are unaware of. You're unaware of most of the mechanisms, most of the active currents within yourself. Dominantly. Unaware. Those are the ones that are then projected out into your experience, creating the world stage, your family dynamics, your day-to-day experience, and the situations and relationships you continuously find yourself in. That is a projection of your programmed and your accumulated currents onto your experience. This is the way the design works and why it works this way. You're projecting your unconscious, your unaware aspects onto the screen so that you can see it, so that you can learn from it, you can become aware of it, and then you can decide what to want to do with it. So if you have a very active current in your design of what we see in most people is feeling victimized by certain things, is feeling like people keep abandoning me. People keep abandoning me. The world is full of abandonment. And that's bad. And I'm sad that the world is full of abandonment. And we say, you have abandonment currents projecting abandonment experiences onto your screen so that you can understand that those are your active currents. And then it's your job to engage with the projection in a way that shifts those currents. One of the first things we would workshop with someone who felt they continuously got abandoned. The first thing you want to do is you want to deactivate the magnetism of that current. So we're going in and we're doing a little bit of brain surgery here. We're doing a little bit of electrical work here. The first way to deactivate it is to detach from it. You detach from it by deciding, I'm okay alone. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. I don't need anyone to stay, because the needing someone to stay creates a great deal of charge in the abandonment current. That's how we would begin to workshop that. You see, the first thing you want to do is you want to deactivate its charge, because the more you get abandoned, the more you get upset that you get abandoned, and then the more you activate the abandonment current. It could be that simple. The abandonment could very well be an accumulated current that you keep practicing because you keep reacting to its reflection. And this is a feedback loop. And we would say 97% of humans and their experience are feedback loops that they refuse to break. But you break the loop by recognizing this is my projection. I need to deactivate its charge and redirect it. One fun exercise for that is to own it. I keep getting abandoned. That's okay. I'm now Mrs. Detached. I'm so detached from this, yada, yada, yada. We're not saying that's a permanent solution, but we're saying have fun with it and break it however you can, and then work with those broken bits to build something new. We're not offering you the perfect solutions because that's your job. You're the creator. We're not going to tell you exactly what to do here, but we're going to say, break that loop at all costs. Recognize it's yours, break it, and change the pattern. Once you begin to change the pattern, you have more raw materials to work with. You've picked apart that clock and you can build something new. So have at it. Is it possible you'll make something even worse? Yes. Yes. But that's your job. Your job is to master this. Your job is to break loops and create new things. Constantly create new things. You want to expand because right now you're contracting your experience by consistently responding to what you see as though it's not you. And then you hypercharge the current, you see. We think we'll leave it there If you're listening to this on YouTube or on Robin's podcast, please join Robin on Twitter, X Spaces. She is talking to people for free, offering these teachings. You can come on, you can grab a mic, you can ask her questions, and let us tell you, if you like to ask Robin questions, because we are channeling through her with the express purpose of teaching you. If you come into these spaces and you ask Robin questions, you're going to get preferential treatment, because that's what we want. That's what we want. We want to teach. And we can't teach if you're not looking to learn. So if you're looking to learn, if you're looking to ask questions, if you want to workshop things, talk to Robin for free on Twitter. By God. She's offering diamonds. And people are saying, Robin's thinking, don't get combative here. We won't. We won't. But we will tell you her procedures favor those who are curious, because we are here to teach. That's what we're here to do. We're here to teach. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. Robin. Okay, this is Robin again. If you're new to my content and what that is, it's a kind of channeling, but I'm not trying to make claims that like I'm connected to some higher dimensional space. Everything is me, everything is mind, everything is consciousness. So that's just a higher perspective aspect of my own consciousness, because everything is. So when I speak from that level of authority or knowing, and it even sees things that I don't see because it's standing in a higher dimension than the like human Robin is. And that's what channeling really is. That's what everything is, right? There's nothing outside of me. So I'm not pretending to have a connection, this like inaccessible 12th dimensional connection. It's just part of Robin's brain is what it is. It's the part of Robin's brain that engineers realities. Robin is not aware of the engineer of reality. It is in her incarnate position. But she's more and more aware, yes. But you're not engineering realities yourself as the human that you are, no. So that's the game. That's the game, and I'm going to keep talking about this. There's so many elements. I'm writing it like crazy, and the more I write it, the more I realize it's increasingly complex. So we'll start simple and then increase in complexity. But do join me on Twitter Spaces. And yes, I definitely give preferential, if what you bring to the table opens up the information that I have to give, you're going to be welcomed up to speak. This is what I really want to encourage, because this is what I want to offer. That's the long and short of it. And I think that's the most beneficial for everybody. I know it is, really. So, yeah. Have fun with this. And if you're shy to come up there, feel free to post your questions and comments on YouTube. All right. Take care.